Cole.
Jordan. The big breath start always gets me. I love it.
I had to sync it up with going live. Well, we're back, Cole. It's been exactly 1 week and everything's different. So our sad pod, our slow pod, the foreboding, it's done. It's over. Welcome to the new 100 Thieves Valorant. Cole, how are you feeling?
You know, it's weird because it's like the things that we're calling for in the LCS were getting delivered in Valorant. So that's a new feeling. Yeah, we do. But at the same time, clearly, I think we were all on this page for the Valorant stuff as well. So welcome change. Didn't actually expect to see it come so soon, but plenty to talk about tonight.
Surely not. And we certainly said, Cole, that it needed to happen. And here we are. I think it's time to fast peek last week.
Jordan, let's start the journey together.
Yay, let's do
First
it, Cole.
topic.
Put us on the clock. We got a new leader, Cole. His name, have you heard of him? His name's Nitro.
Nitro0, you mean?
Nitro0. I think it's pronounced Nitro0. Aside from everything, Cole, what does this change? How does this change things?
Yeah, obviously the big thing for me is that it appears Nitro is going to be the IGL for this team.
Ding, ding, ding.
And to that, I say hallelujah, because we certainly needed a change at that position. Not just IGL in the game, which was Val, right? Apparently Val for at least the last stretch. But honestly, like just like a team leader, team captain, someone to rally the troops, say the right things. Very important to me, and we appear to finally be getting it.
Yeah. You know, we talked last week about strategy and what was our strategy entering the scene, right? And one of the things that I think it'll be interesting to look back on is the positioning of Hiko. And we positioned him as the captain, right? As the linchpin, the piece that we were building around. He got announced, the rest of the roster kind of just appeared. And it's going to be interesting to look back and see if what changes primarily is that he didn't want to be those things, right? Not his style, not his preferred role to play in a team. And look, that's not bad, right? You can't have a team of 5 captains. That wouldn't work, and you shouldn't want that. And I think for some players, that's just not what they're good at. That's fine, right? The captain is not the most valuable person on the team. They play one role, right? And if you want to have a solid team, you need to have 5 people who are the best at their role. And so I think there might be a little bit of this where we look back and we say, we might have set Hiko up in the wrong position to actually deliver what we are looking for and what was promised, which is a squad, right? We never got there. We never got a squad.
By virtue of misreading his characteristics, possibly. I would agree with you on those grounds. Though I do have to toss out a soft respectfully disagree on the captain piece. The captain piece is crucial, man. The captain piece being misplayed is what doomed our previous roster from the start. All right. You can't tell me it's not important. And I get the distinction between your best player doesn't need to be your captain. Yeah. That is certainly a thing. Right. Let me I don't want Kevin Durant leading my basketball team, even though he's going to be the best player on it.
Exactly. Let me do a hyperspeed rebuttal. If you don't have a good opper, right, but you have a good captain and 4 other good players, are you a good team?
Good point.
Probably going to be limited, right?
Yeah.
So that's my point. Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. Move on, Dad.
Next, Cole.
Okay, well, let's go to the next topic. Jordan, take us away.
Hiko and Nitro, Cole. I don't know if you've heard the news. These two fellows have played together a different game, CSGO. Valorant didn't exist at the time, but they're reunited, Cole, and it feels so ... How does it feel? How do we feel about this? Is it the best thing that ever has happened, or does it not matter? Where are you at?
Feels like you got a really useful Christmas gift, but it didn't quite capture your passionate heart. When I was a little kid, I wanted this monster truck like play set that was like the Monster Crunch Arena, and you could drive the Bigfoot up a ramp and crush these like tin foil molded cars and then like remold them and everything. Thought it was the best thing ever. And I got a like a Casio keyboard little thing from my parents, and I was like, yeah, that's useful, want that monster truck crasher. That's what it feels like, right? Where it's like, I am happy to have Nitro in here. Like, I think that's good. I'm happy the rosters are changing. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be a good thing. I have my, maybe the like, so they have history together, right? As you mentioned, this is a reunion. Perhaps there's the potential for them to be a little like former boys club with this, and maybe even fall into less mature interactions, less mature like history that they have with each other. We all know that kind of sometimes happens with some people. I don't know if it's going to happen with them. I'm not super worried about it, but I think this is going to be ultimately a very good thing. So I don't mean to be like too lukewarm about it, but I definitely like Hiko and him seem to be kind of buddy. And because of the Hiko flaws that I've harped on a little bit, that puts a little tinge of worry in me.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, and look, the us and them thing, like it felt very much so Valorant, young program. What we need to be careful about, and what we should be kind of just, watching our steps on is, are we going to create a similar dynamic where it's these two dudes instead of this one dude and the rest of the team? Like, you don't want that, right? And I think the thing about an IGL in these kinds of games, you need a couple different qualities. One of them has to be like, I trust that this person has my best interests in mind, and I'm going to do something that seems not like the best play, right? If you were to boil down IGL, it's kind of that. It's somebody who's saying, hey, look, we should do this because it's going to give us the best chance to win. And there's one guy on the team who's like, yo, dog, what about me? Like, I'm on my own on A site. Are you sure about that? And if you don't have that trust, it falls apart. So yeah, I think I want to make sure, and we got to do this specifically better. We have to set up a cohesive squad that has a lot of trust, that doesn't feel like we got Hiko, we got Nitro, and we got some of the guys who are filling in the blanks, right?
Yep.
We can't have that.
Nicely done on the timing, by the way. So that ends that topic. On to the next one. More on what you were saying in a little bit. But for this one, we actually have a graphic to look at. So let's go ahead and move on to that. We're going to talk about Venerated, talking about Highground's departure from the team. So let me pull this thing up really quick.
Here it is.
There you go.
To my call. Here it is. Listen, you can't add Nitro without dropping at least one player. We went all the way. We dropped 4. And Venerated had some pretty insightful stuff to say about this.
Yeah, let me read through this since I've got it. It might be a little difficult for some of you guys to read.
It's small
so
for me to read.
This was Venerated in Android's Twitch chat, and he was kind of fielding some questions from some people. We got this from BC in our community who has an eagle eye for this, so thank you for sending this in. He was asked, did you guys have success in the early scrims? And he said, I'm sorry. This was a response to a different piece. And the whole situation was unfortunate. Felt like we were set up from failure from the start. He goes on to say, Hiko just plays way different than Vegas did. We needed time to adjust to that, but we didn't have time. And then BC actually said to him, dude, I hated the PUBG and free Hiko community. It's so toxic. And Venerated said, yep. And Hiko never said anything about all that hate and stuff until we got kicked off the team. Then he goes on to say, he basically said, like, we're all good players and good people and to stop all the hate, but he waited till after we got cut to say that stuff. We're all looking for opportunities as individuals for now, but we might still play together. We don't really know yet. And then someone said he has the most experience. That's why referring to Hiko being kept on. Venerated answered, because he's a big streamer. That part I don't agree with. He's the best player on the team. There is that part too. Goes on to field the question. Imagine if Hiko hadn't said what he did the day the whole team was signed. And Venerated answered, yeah, it would have been way better from the start if he didn't say what he said. But we had played together for a few weeks. We're doing well. That's why we were signed in the first place. And then one final note, he did take time to mention that 100T had was going to help them break their lease because they just moved to LA and allow them to move back. So a lot of information there coming from Venerated himself. Jordan, your reaction?
Yeah. Okay. So one, I didn't realize this was actually sideline reporting from our guy, BC. Thanks, BC. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I kind of wish, like they all moved to LA. Is Hiko going to move to LA? I hope he does, so that we can kind of move past this whole like remote scrim thing. That'd be great. Internet issues. Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's very interesting, and I think it does hit on a lot of the things that we talked about previously, which is boy, wouldn't it have been nice if. And I think the qualities that we are looking for, and that maybe even Venerated and the guys are looking for, are the types of things that you get from a leader and a captain. And there's an interesting thing here that we're going to talk about with our next topic. But keep this in mind. You know, who's the captain? And boy, it sure on paper was Hiko. Is it still? We got to talk about that, Cole. And maybe perhaps we should do that in our next segment, which is building the squad.
All right, lead us off.
All right. So here's what else we know, right? In the meantime, Hiko is on the books with was it Dot Esports, I believe?
Yep, Dot Esports.
Said a couple things that are very important, and I'm just going to read them to you real quick. He said, ultimately, I think what needs to be said is I was not ever the GM of the team. So that wasn't his title. All right, that's on record. Never wanted to be, didn't expect to be. Not only was he not, he didn't want to be. So, okay, yeah. I mean, and in fairness, right, he's signed as a Valorant player, not the GM. So it makes sense. It makes sense. It checks out. Nitro and Hiko will have a say in who the next 3 signings will be, according to Hiko. And the team captain, this is a direct quote from Dot, the team captain also explained that they aren't being pressured to figure out who they want to play with and will be given the time and space needed to make the right decision, which as a fan, I'm very reassured by. Like, I don't care if we miss events because like we've talked about, I think it does more harm than good to be at events and not showing up. So I'm all for it. Let's take the time and let's figure this out right so that when we show up, we can actually start winning some trophies. Yeah, that'd be great. The thing that I want to point out here, the team captain, right? So there's a lot in here, but I want to start with this idea. Is Hiko still the team captain? And if so, is your team captain different from your IGL? Because that seems like a disconnect to me.
It does seem like a disconnect for me, but it was a disconnect that they were already doing. Hiko was not being the IGL as far as we can discern. And that's listening to the comms themselves, like with our own ears, right? So I don't know what the meta is for CSGO teams or Valorant teams, but it does seem odd to me. Like I would want my captain being there. Hiko seems like, I mean, he was obviously our best player. So I think some of the move, and we've talked about this before, is to let your fragger kind of focus on fragging more than the general strategy of the map. So I'm going to go ahead and say I don't think Hiko is the captain with Nitro coming in. It seems to me that will be Nitro's role, and I see that as a positive. I hope I'm right about that. I do want to make a mention that whole like his quote to Dot Esports, like I was not ever the GM of the team, never want to be, didn't expect to be. It's like kind of weird to say that after you complained on day one that it's like, this isn't really what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to get to make my team. You know, so my tumultuous relationship with Hiko's media quotes just continues to go further and further down the drain.
Yeah, you're right. That's an incompatibility. That those two statements don't really hash out. I mean, and I think this goes to probably the root of the problem here. Probably is there is no GM, right? There is Jacob, who is esports broadly, but he is not the Papa Smithy of Valorant. So probably until that person is specifically until that person, assuming that at some point we get there, like also assuming we get a coach at some point, that'd be great.
Because I'm assuming Jacob is acting as GM at this moment.
Right. Yes. Which you have to have somebody to make those decisions. But ideally, it's not somebody who's also making decisions about 100 other things.
Yep.
Ding, ding, Cole. That's that for the first segment of our show. Moving right along, we actually have, surprise kids, and good news, another video to watch. It's the best week of school ever.
Yeah.
2020.
Rolling in the cart. Yeah, it there.
Roll in the cart. We need to update our graphic to be that cart.
Yeah.
Guess what? We got a new video this time from the 100 Thieves side of the house. It's actually a bit of a tete with Team Liquid. And we'll let the film roll and then we'll get into it. Let's talk some strategy here, Cole.
Daddy likey.
Okay. Adding another wrinkle to this, America's captain. If he's America's captain, shouldn't he also be the captain of our team? Let's just
Okay, fair enough. Well done, sir.
be one and not the other. All right. So this is another Gabriel Ruiz banger.
Yes.
And let's just say, okay, yep, we're back. I mean, such an important video. It does a couple of things that are really interesting that I wanted to run by you. It reframes who we are as a team, right? It's beginning to create an identity for what we are as a team, and it's taking this very groomed and intentional look that Team Liquid has, which I'll say I am not a fan of. I'm assuming you're not either, Cole. This
No.
Avengers crossover because you don't like Marvel.
I don't like Marvel in the first place. I definitely don't think it's cool to have a Spider-Man jersey to wear.
I agree 100%.
And sorry, I don't mean to flame the people that if I was a sponsorships person for them, I would be beyond mind blown to be having that opportunity, and I would milk it for everything it's worth.
Right.
So from that perspective, I get it. I ain't gonna go on record saying it's cool though, because it's not.
Yeah. And that's not a comment on Nitro specifically, right? Like he played the role that the team had in mind for him because the team has a partnership with Marvel. And he did it well, and he looks like a cool guy when he's rolling out in his Avengers type stuff. Anyway, we're spray painting over that chapter, and I think it's a pretty cool look. You might not get this reference. I get Hydra vibes. I'm getting doesn't get it.
Sorry,
bad guys, the bad guys.
Okay,
in Marvel,
it's like a darker takeover of the heroes thing. Yeah, sure,
exactly. Even the color scheme is similar there. So, I mean. I'm very interested for your perspective on this because I think you get this really well, how teams create and craft kind of an identity. And it happens through moments like this, right? So who are we going to be in the scene? And this is one look at that. I mean, it kind of I don't see how you watch this and then say, we don't have a bit of a rivalry with Team Liquid Valorant, right? Like the proximity of these two videos, the fact that he's coming from that organization, we've centered his announcement around this iconic image of him from that team. What do you make of this? How are you looking at this so far as our identity goes in this space? Because we needed to refresh it, and I think we're starting down that path.
Yeah, and I think that's good because I want to be someone who's throwing blows out there in the content space. And Team Liquid, as we talked about last time, they really knocked it out of the park. So to make a hype video, even though it's shorter, it's simpler, but the message is so clear, right? It's like we are repurposing this dude's image. He is now a thief, and not only is he just now with our roster, we're going to completely desecrate the previous image, right? It's spray paint all over it. Brand new start. Everything's dark. There's intensity. There's drama. And it immediately creates this sense of hey, here's a haymaker for you. We've got your dude and now we're going to crush it. And I'm really excited about that because that creating those rivalries, creating those moments, you want a story for all of these matchups. And we're badly in need of that because we have not been competitive. So to make a huge move like this, to put us in position to compete, which is going to take a while for us to get there. But that is a big step in the right direction and quite crafty and smart to take a shot at them who don't have a track record in the space yet. So it's not like we're going to go and do that to Sentinels who will crush us, right? We're doing that Team Liquid who's still an unknown quantity. So it gives us a little bit of leeway. Plus, I mean, let's be honest, if you go across the different esports, I mean, Team Liquid seems to have tried to incorporate a lot of 100 Thieves aesthetic into what they do, especially on the apparel side. It's they responded by doing their best to copy the moves that 100 Thieves had made. So it's kind of openly acknowledging that rivalry as well, especially because the Marvel stuff does cross into the apparel side. So super hyped. That's the kind of drama we need to feel excited about this. And it's the drama that's worthy and deserved from a move this significant, right? This is not a little move. This is, we're burning down the old thing And Nitro is like part of like the new foundation for this team. This is going to be a totally different thing.
Yeah. And a couple more quick points. By dropping the roster completely, I think that's a smart move, right? And there's going to be conversations that those players have that the community has to try to figure out what to make of, right? And how they feel about. That's going to happen. That will very quickly pass if and when we start competing and doing well. And I do expect, based on these two pieces, that we have a more viable shot at being in a position that we want to be in. The other thing I'll say is, I think Nitro's really interestingly positioned, right? He's a player in his prime. He is, if you watch the Liquid farewell video, he's beloved by Liquid, right? He's not leaving with any bad blood,
right?
Or at least none publicly aired. They've said that they would put him in their Hall of Fame if they had one, which I'm sure at some point they will, and he'll be there, right? So this is such a huge get for us. And I think it creates this really compelling storyline and narrative. And again, Gabe, all about the narrative. So there it is. I can't wait to watch him play against them. That's going to be fascinating. And especially if it's competitive. And that's what we'll wait and see on. We'll need to see what the rest of the squad looks like before we can get a sense for that.
Yeah, that's the key. And let me just say, looking at this graphic, man, I don't know. I just I've seen plenty of these welcome whatever images from 100 Thieves. Maybe it's the bread jersey, but this just gets me more hyped than usual for that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for him to be here. And because, like I said, in my opinion, he's gonna take that captain leadership torch from Hiko.
Right.
I hope we found our guy, man.
Yeah, and I didn't read this at the time, and I want to read this really quick, and then we'll move on to the last and best segment of the show, at least so far as graphics go, Cole. But Elige, in his farewell video to Nitro, and what was a pretty emotional and very heartfelt message, he said, having such a selfless person that does everything for the success of the team, that's just awesome. And for me, without, he doesn't have a highlight reel for Valorant. I get it. And we'll talk about that in a second. But that kind of a player with that mentality and the willingness to do exactly that is exactly the person you want to have signed to your roster to build around. So what a huge move. We got exactly what we were kind of hoping for here. I'm feeling optimistic, and I think a lot of people are based on this massive signing.
Yep. Well,
moving on,
we can contrast that optimism with this incendiary take. So let's go ahead and pop the Molly. Now we sweat.
Molly.
Jaskar is the incendiary take of the week.
Jaskar, thanks for submitting this one, buddy.
Yeah, Jaskar posted this in our Discord, and it was the favorite here. You go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Did you want to add another comment about Incendiary?
Go for it.
Okay. Jaskar says this: if we keep rehashing CS relationships and players, it makes me fear for the sustainability of the esport. Is Valorant just becoming the NA of CS, always taking the scraps off the table once the players get old and slow? So there are a couple things in here. I mean, this game appears to be a global game, and I think we should expect that. And I think also fair to say that NA has a specific and kind of pronounced position in the world of esports as sometimes being the retirement home, right? Depending on the esport you're talking about.
Yeah, depending on the game, right?
Yep. Not always the best reputation. And so Jaskar's take, are we going to become just another spot for the players to go once they don't really have a long runway? Thoughts?
There's something to be said of that for sure. I do think that this is part of the natural evolution of okay, there's a new esport out there, and then the players have to come from somewhere, and people who are grinding out of nowhere aren't really on the table here for the most part. So there will naturally be some bleed over from other esports. CS being the most obvious compatible esport that there is, but something to be said for the age of some of the players that might come over. Hiko, for example, is up there, right? Hiko is just a couple years younger than my old self.
He's one of us.
He's one of us. # one of us. And so that's a thing. And it's like, especially if the scene is developing and isn't as lucrative or prestigious as the CS scene is, then yeah, I can see that being a thing if we're not careful. But I do have hope that NA has some solid teams, and I think teams that really will be able to compete on a world's level whenever that actually starts happening.
Right.
So I guess it'll just be us waiting to see what kind of like reputation emerges around the NA Valorant scene. But I mean, I feel like it's promising from some of our top teams that we've seen so far. Hard to say.
Yeah.
Hard to say because you got barely any context. But once those international events start happening, we're going to have to see how that shakes out.
Yeah. And, very hopefully we are in that conversation for top tier NA teams. I think that's certainly, looking at this signing and the moves recently, you could say that's certainly what we're aspiring to and what we're aiming for, right? Hard to look at this and say, they're going to be content to sit in the middle of the pack. I just don't think that's the case. Credit to Jaskar, right? He's done his homework on this, and he brings up another point, not in this take, but kind of separately through conversation that I saw. And I want to bring that up basically to say there is a worst case scenario here, right? Which is that the only fail state of this move, I think, is that this more untested player, right? He's not been grinding. He's been playing CSGO. And if he doesn't make that transition as well as you are assuming he will, right? We're putting a lot of faith in this, that this guy, and there's no reason to think he won't, right? Like we've seen a lot of other players make that switch really successfully. But let's be honest and mindful and recognize, as Jasper's pointed out, that that's still an unknown. Like we don't have a lot of footage of him playing Valorant, and he's streaming right now, so that will be easier to come by, or at least he was. And so, yeah, we'll have time to watch. We'll have time to make those assessments and see how it's going. But that is one thing I just want to put out there, as we should keep a close eye on that and make sure that he's able to catch up to the rest of these guys who've been grinding tournaments for months.
Well, yeah, kind of months. Yeah, it's still a new scene, but your point is taken. It's a new scene though, and I think just to sum up, I'm glad that we made this move. I'm glad also that we're going to give them time here. I think like taking some time is going to be a useful and valuable thing, because the Russian approach didn't work for us, right? And now with that already out there, let's just be careful about our next venture in, because if we come in and we are not good again, that's like, it's not like that makes things twice as bad. That makes things like 10 times as bad, as if your second swing at it is still garbage. So yeah,
I think there are enough people out there who recognize that the first go around was exactly that.
Yeah.
It was our best shot at getting into the scene. Didn't pan out. Here's take two.
Yeah.
Right?
And as Venerated even said, I mean, they were doing well ahead of the signing. Like it was looking promising. So I think it didn't work out. It was a respectable try. And now we learned from that, and we're going to do something different.
Yep. And everybody's watching. You don't get 3 tries at this, right? To your point. So we have to get it right this time. And what that means, Cole, is that we as fans get to live in the fun world of what ifs and maybes and who's next.
Yeah.
And we will enjoy that as much as we possibly can. We'll watch streams. We'll catch some tournaments that we're probably not in, or definitely not in.
For a while.
Just enjoy the scene as it develops. So no rush. Let's all... we had fun fast peeking it this week, Cole, but I don't expect we'll have another one to fast peek at for a while, because I'm not expecting to have major announcements in the next coming week. Yep. But when we do, we'll be here. We'll be fast peeking last week, hoping that you guys are around as well. Certainly, if you want to chat between now and whenever that is, hang out in our Discord. We'll put that in the chat if you're live. Otherwise, catch us live when we come back. We'll let you know. We'll tweet about it. And it's been a big week, Cole. A lot to take in. I think we're in a good spot. I'm optimistic, and hopefully more good news to come in the not too distant future.
Yep. And as always, then, we're your dads, and we love you, and we miss you already.